Welcome back, everybody, to the Glaziar Gambol podcast, and we are here with Marvel stuff. As usual, Marvel stuff.
Shocker.
Shocker, talking Marvel. Hope you liked our Arcane content. As more League of Legends stuff happens, if there's anything of note, we'll bring it up. Otherwise, Marvel, DC, it's kind of our main jam here. While you're here, make sure you like, subscribe, and hope you enjoy this episode. We're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again, just a little bit of information about that. A very good actor talking with Marvel about a potential undisclosed role, Coleman Domingo, and we're going to be talking about some new Fantastic Four information that could mean some other things, so speculation, always fun. And then last, the hit future game Marvel Rivals. That's probably going to be the Overwatch killer. It's already a game that a lot of people have stopped playing, but it looks phenomenal. We're going to be talking about some Marvel Rivals, and we're probably going to go in that order, the order of Coleman Domingo, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, and then Marvel Rivals. So if you're here for any of those topics, that's the order we're going. So if you want to skip to just Marvel Rivals, go right ahead. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Cinedigm. First, like I said, Coleman Domingo, very, very good actor. A lot of you may know him from Fear the Walking Dead. I'm sure that's where Joe knows him from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I know him for mainly his voice acting roles in like American Dad, BoJack Horseman, Rudy Gilman, Teenage Kraken, I think he was in. So, I recognize him for his voice more than his face, but that's because I haven't seen as much of what he's been in. Lincoln, the movie Lincoln. So, very, very talented actor in multiple facets. And
he's got that captivating voice.
He does.
Like it's like smooth like butter, but it's also like girthy. I don't know how to like.
It's
that's
very
how I
much.
explain.
If they were to recast Luke Cage, you could have very much imagined him as Luke Cage.
Right. I still think they should keep Mike Coulter, but
they should.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah,
I also think Coleman Domingo is a not only good enough actor, but a big enough name that you could put him in a bigger role than that.
Right, and I mean, there's the number one role that everyone thinks of, which we'll probably get to in just a second. But
well, let's jump right into it. What does everybody think?
I mean, everyone assumes it's the recast for Kang. I mean, that's like the big thing. It's going to be like the overarching like Kang Supreme like I forgot what it's Kang Prime, whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Yep.
The overarching Emperor Kang that's in charge of all of it. Over charge of the Council of Kangs has just been that big the big guy, the one at the end.
Sure.
Because we've seen a couple different obviously I thought Jonathan Majors was incredible. His off work stuff he was acquitted of. Finally, the charges were dropped. So, but yeah, I think Jonathan Majors was incredible. He definitely brought life to Kang, and he's very dedicated to the role and doing these different acting styles for each of the different variants.
Right, I thought he killed it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think Coleman Domingo can do that too. He's like I said, he's got that captivating voice where like whenever he's on screen, he can seem terrorizing, like oh we're screwed. Right. Like for the audience, it's like we're screwed. So
see, and with the charges dropped, I wasn't sure if Disney would consider bringing Jonathan Majors back. I don't think they would, just because they publicly made a choice to get rid of him.
Yeah, they publicly made a choice to get rid of him, but then they owned Hulu and did his interview. Like they hosted his interview.
Right. So I don't know.
Afterwards.
I wouldn't. So
yeah.
I know a lot of people might not, some people at least might not like this, but I would prefer Jonathan Majors come back as Kang.
Right. I think so too.
Not
and
only
you can find
because
another
of his
role
talent,
for
but having the charges dropped, as well as many people saw the video of him trying to run away and getting chased down.
Yeah, for blocks upon blocks upon blocks. Yeah.
So it's yes, he may have victimized somebody, but he also seemed like a victim to me. So I think it was probably just an unhealthy relationship that got out of hand. But again, I don't have all the details because I wasn't part of the court. So, you know, if they don't bring him back, I guess that's, you know, his career kind of got washed from somebody who eventually said he didn't do anything wrong, being his ex-partner. So disappointing. But anyway, obviously I'd prefer that. Coleman Domingo, if he became like Kang Prime, would be absolutely insane. I've seen a couple things. I don't think these have much merit, but again, speculation is very fun. And what ifs are always just cool. Not the show What If, but what ifs.
Sure.
So they were talking about, or Disney, the future X-Men makers, were talking about Denzel Washington as Magneto. They were talking about
that was my first thought is him and Denzel as Magneto and Professor X.
Right, and they talked about Giancarlo Esposito as Magneto, or
he's
Professor
playing
X.
Someone else.
He's now playing somebody else.
Yeah.
But I saw some backlash because they would be taking a Jewish character and not giving it to a Jewish actor. I think that, you know, I think it would be okay in this scenario to change the character just because you're moving forward with something brand new. You have to. Right.
Like Magneto's, you have to have a new origin story for Magneto.
Well, and Sir McKellen did a fantastic job. If you want that version of Magneto, you have it. If you want that traditional Magneto, you also have all those comics you can read.
Right.
There has been a ton of representation for Magneto already. I don't care if they switch. As a comic book fan, as an X-Men being like my favorite part of Marvel, I am fine if they switch Magneto.
I think you have to because like he was part of the like Nazi Germany, like that timeline, and that's so long ago now. Mm-hmm. And like the MCU as it is, like within the last month we were finally caught up to when Tony Stark snapped.
Right.
And so like we are like the MCU is still in the future.
It's supposed to be
like,
set modern.
Right.
Obviously Fantastic Four is not going to be though.
Right. But they're in another universe too. So yes. like I think you have to change it because you can't have like a Holocaust survivor be young enough. Like they'd be
right.
So
they don't
old.
Want Magneto and Professor X to be like very, very old again. They want them to be like at max 40.
Sure.
So
with 50, I mean, yeah,
right.
Like
so that it wouldn't be realistic to have them be a Holocaust survivor. So I think with that, I don't think it's going to be the same type of Magneto, which when I saw Coleman Domingo, my first thought was, especially with Denzel being considered for Professor X.
Yeah.
I thought.
And neither of them could do either, too.
Yeah.
Either of them could do either.
I'd rather Denzel be Professor X.
I agree because I think Coleman Domingo has that bigger build.
Not only that, but he's a lot more dynamic. Denzel's great, but in his old age, he does not have that.
And you just saw Denzel with his head shaved for Gladiator 2. So
right, and I've heard a lot about how Denzel's he only wants to do a couple more movies and then he wants to retire.
Yeah,
and
about one more role.
While he was good in Gladiator, he still just like. Denzel is great, but he's just Denzel, and so I think that fits more of the like not necessarily boring, but a lot more plain. When you look at Magneto versus Professor X is a lot less dynamic,
right?
And Coleman Domingo should be in the more dynamic of the two roles,
right?
So I would love if Coleman Domingo became Magneto, but I would also be okay if he did Kang. That both are fine.
Yeah.
Either way, like we said, he's very, very talented. and he should have, because he has that wonderful voice, he
Yeah.
should have a role in which that voice does have to expand and kind of project, which Magneto would.
Yeah, apparently he went to Marvel. This is something he said. He's like, what do you have for me? And basically Disney was like, what do you want to do? Like you tell us. Like at this point, you tell us what
He
you
said,
want
"Are
to
you
do. We'll
ready?"
make
And
it work.
Disney spread its leg and said, "I'm ready."
Mm-hmm.
Which, seeing Coleman Domingo, that should be most people's natural response.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think very cool, very fun, no matter what the speculation or ends up being. I think Kang, Magneto, or other, he'll be great. I just don't think he is a talent that you should waste on even a B level character.
Right.
A or S is all he should go. A, S, S,
Sure.
that's all he should worry about.
Right.
Next, we want to talk about Daredevil Born Again. Speaking of very talented actors that are in roles that all they care about is ASS, Charlie Cox will be Daredevil again, and obviously the rest of the cast is going to be coming back. But basically, this is not a huge piece of news, but it's confirming Daredevil got blipped. It's going to be shot 5 years after the ending of the Netflix series.
Right.
And it was during that time that he was blipped that Kingpin will have risen to power. And
no, he's like the face of New York.
Yeah.
Face of New York, running for mayor. Probably will win the mayorship of New York. And Daredevil's going to have his own struggles. Frank Castle's back. Frank Castle's back. Quinton or Quincy Poindexter, something like Quentin Poindexter. Bullseye's back. There's just a bunch of fun things with that. Foggy Nelson and Karen Page are back. It's I don't know. I'm very excited for it. It's obviously the next Disney Plus series.
Yep. And speaking of Disney Plus, it sounds like She-Hulk will not be making an appearance in this show.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah, they made a comment about how she is on the back burner and not projected for like any future projects for the time being.
Sure. There's a lot of characters like that until we figure out what we want to do with them. So
absolutely. There's a couple where that doesn't make sense. Like, where the hell is Shang-Chi?
Right. Yeah.
But I think Shang-Chi's next appearance will probably be in the
big movie
Marvels 3.
Sure.
Where, basically if X-Men, whichever one brings where Photon is, I think that's the next time we see Shang-Chi, because that's because he was talking with
same kind of tech.
Marvel,
yeah.
Or Captain Marvel. So basically just confirming Daredevil got blipped. Kingpin's going to be the main villain for sure, and the fact that Punisher is going to make an appearance. There's some other people that are making their appearances, but it's mainly focused on Daredevil and that cast again. I think it's going to be very, very Penguin-esque.
Yeah.
Penguin was a huge hit, and I think it's going to be very much on par with Penguin.
Yeah, I think it's going to be incredible. I mean, they got big shoes to fill. And so it's like they have to match that kind of Netflix energy, but make it part of this world now. And so it's like you can't have all of the cheesiness. You have to have more of that serious tone that the next Netflix show had.
Right.
And it's good. It's good for Disney to try new things, and I think that's what they're doing. And they're putting a lot of effort into it. Obviously, Agatha All Along was a very different kind of project. Primarily like female led, the entire cast, and people hated it right away. But then once they realized like we're hating it just because people tell us to hate it, and they're doing new things, and it's going well. They're putting more effort into different things, and they're putting all their resources into making that new thing as best as it can, and it's resonating with a lot of people. So
yeah, I think they're just going to keep moving forward with that, and like they said, they're taking their time with all these projects. Like, they're no longer trying to rush things out. And they've kind of shown that. Oh, Blade, they're doing that a little too much. But I think
Hey, Daredevil went through like 3-4 scripts until
Exactly.
and John Bernthal almost left
right.
because they couldn't figure the scripts out, and then they finally hit one, and he's like, you know what? No, never mind. This is badass. I'm just
Exactly.
saying.
They took
So
it slow and they're going to do it right. They're just doing it wrong in a couple other parts, Blade, but
right,
this they're doing it right.
yeah. And they're just taking, they're taking their time with it, and like you said, too long played. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing but this is doing it perfectly timed. I can't wait. Next major thing that we heard about, I think this is very exciting actually, which was it started out as a leak and then they kind of had to confirm it because of the fact that it was a leak. Leaks are never fun in my opinion, but at least this doesn't give away story details or cameos that we didn't know about. Fantastic Four, a picture was sent out, which they cannot post. No place can legally post it. Just a fun fact there.
Yep. The NDAs on Marvel products are insane.
So
It's
anybody
insane.
that posts it will be extremely punished. So we haven't seen the actual picture, but I think it was cave explorers or miners or something, fell across a set which happened to be a large, massive cave. The set was for Fantastic Four. So we know that Fantastic Four is going to have some portion of the movie shot within a massive cave or cave system. So there's a couple theories. The one is there was a version of the comics of Fantastic Four in which
this is the first villain they faced.
Well, there's
actually,
that, but there's a version of the Fantastic Four that had to go into hiding, and where they hid was underground.
Sure.
So there's that possibility. That I think is very not likely.
Right.
But the other possibility,
you associate Fantastic Four with space, and with Galactus being in it,
correct.
You'd think space would be. They would have messed something up in space where.
Right. Well, and
Galactus.
They could shoot in a cave because of the dark setting, the rock textures. They could shoot in a cave to make it space-like.
Right.
So it could just be the fact that it has the most space-like looking environment that's real without having to use like green screen and all that. So it could be that, which I actually, now that we're talking about it, I kind of like that idea. But the other big thing, which I think is the very, very likely option, Mole Man was the very first villain Fantastic Four ever came across, and he's a recurring villain. They don't defeat him right away. He is successful. He has moloids, which are like humanoid mole creatures that he wants to run the planet with. And his name is Harvey Elder. And the idea of putting in another villain in this first Fantastic Four movie is my biggest concern. We have Galactus.
I don't think it's a main villain. Yeah, I don't think it's a main villain. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be all figured out in that first act. I don't think they're going to do a origin thing. I think the first act is going to be probably them dealing with a mole man kind of creature, like a very simple. You think like
villain. The first 30 minutes of the movie will be that?
Yeah. I think it's going to be like flash, and then you're going to get a little bit of flashbacks.
Yeah, because that's huge to go into like a massive cave or cave system to only use it for like a post-credit scene or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think you need. I don't think you need. We don't need the origin story again.
We don't.
We don't need the origin story, sure. And I think that's a very good thing that they're doing for Fantastic Four, and I think that's also a really good thing that James Gunn is doing with the DCU, is that we're not seeing a Superman origin story for the 15th time. So, we're not going to get an origin story. We're going to get some flashbacks probably, just like small short scenes of probably them getting their powers for the first time. I think that would be cool to see, because it is like a WTF moment for all of them.
For sure.
And then probably just while they're using their power, I want them to kind of like they should be established, right? Like they're going to have the suits and they're going to have the Baxter building, or the Baxter Foundation, and they should be the established group of superheroes from this era.
For sure.
And so, they should dispatch Mole Man with ease, probably, and then be like, oh, yeah, maybe a little too high on themselves. And then Galactus shows up and kind of humbles them a little bit. And they hopefully fail and end up in our world at some point. That's what I hope, I guess. But
absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be even if it is slightly predictable, because it is something that, just me and you, couple random fans, could think of as a story, even if that is slightly predictable.
Yeah, but every post-credit scene we've thought of is gold. I don't know why.
I even though it is that way, I think it is. Obviously, the details are what make it interesting. The journey is what makes it good. So even if that's
right.
what you just laid out is the rough outline, that is something that will be successful and make sense, which is something I think that they just kind of like saying like a competition show, cooking competition, whatever show. If somebody does something simple but perfectly, it hits better with judges over even like singing shows. It hits better with judges than somebody who takes a risk and does well.
Right.
If somebody does just good, but they took a risk, versus somebody who does something perfect or great, but didn't take a risk, they tend to lean towards the person that did perfect. So in a movie, predictability is often portrayed as something terrible and something you should avoid. But if you do predictability perfectly, people are willing to accept it in order to watch this perfect.
And I think the name of the movie also, it's Fantastic Four: First Steps. I think that being said, it makes me believe that they're going to be in the infancy of them being this superhero group, and they're going to get some steps in where they're going to win, and you're going to get some steps where you fall. And I think that's the lesson that will be learned throughout the entirety of the movie, is that they're going to pick themselves up and take those steps, but they're also going to fail and fall.
They should. Nope, I hate perfect superheroes.
Right. So
they should fail, and they should occasionally
there should be something catastrophic. I mean, like, if they lose and their whole universe gets destroyed, that's a heavy thing to recover from.
Go ahead and have Mole Man lose easily, but Galactus shouldn't lose easily.
Yeah.
Galactus shouldn't be a 5-minute part of a movie. Dr. Doom shouldn't get his powers and be defeated in 5 minutes.
Right. Galactus shouldn't be a purple cloud.
Yeah. All these things should not happen. You have multiple examples of what not to do. You have perfect, hundreds of years of movie history of things to avoid as well. Let's just do it right. So Mole Man, I think, is where they're going to end up going. And I also could see the fact that a cave looks space-like. Something like that, but I don't think they're going to be going interplanetary for the first movie. I don't think we're going to be leaving Earth unless it's Earth's orbit. So I don't
or the
think
universe. If they have to exit their universe in space because Galactus ate their planet, then they could bail out on the Fantastic Four ship or whatever. So
that my only concerns so far with this would be is if it is Mole Man. You can't let too many you can't do the old school Sony problem where you have so many villains in one movie that people are like, who am I supposed to care about? Who am I supposed to root for? Who am I supposed to root against?
Right.
But if you do sort of a first act setup for a second and third act to
do what Venom did, but the exact opposite.
Because isn't there's supposed to be another villain in this movie as well?
No, just the Herald of Galactus.
Silver Surfer.
The Silver Surfer.
So there's Silver Surfer.
Part of
there's
Galactus.
And that's going to be Galactus is going to be the guy that's in No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Some British dude. Some
character in No Country.
Yeah, some deep voice British dude.
I have to look this up. It's bothering me that I can't remember his name.
I'll know it if I heard it.
If I look up Anton Chigurh, No Country, played by Javier Bardem.
No, it's not him.
Isn't he?
Ralph Ineson. Ralph
Isn't
Ineson is
Javier
playing.
Bardem gonna be somebody?
No, not that I know of. Ralph Ineson is going to play Galactus. If you heard Ralph Ineson, you'd be like, okay, I get that. I get it. Javier Bardem was one of the people they were talking to, but I think they went with Ralph.
Okay,
Ineson.
yeah. There's an article in 2013 stating that Javier Bardem is the MCU's first pick to play planet-devouring villain Galactus.
Sure, and that's the voice, like, yeah. Ralph Ineson's got that deep voice too, so.
Interesting. All right, so it looks like he is going to be playing a villain in the future, but it will not be Galactus.
Sure.
But that's who they want. Okay, I was much more excited for Javier Bardem. That's a little disappointing, but that's okay.
Yeah. And plus Disney has such a good relationship with Javier Bardem. He's King Triton.
We were talking up Coleman Domingo earlier. Javier Bardem is a top 15, top 20 actor of all time.
Yeah.
So if they put Javier Bardem in anything, especially a villain role, I will have to bring a change of pants to the theater. Honestly, I'm kind of feeling that way about Coleman Domingo, but I thought I was going to be that way for Moon Knight.
He's very good,
Oscar Isaac, but
he's so good with his Coleman Domingo's so good with his emotion too. So him being a Magneto and seeing that pain and the suffering he's gone through, I think he'd do a very good job. So I'm pro Magneto over Kang.
Pro Nito.
By the way. Pro Nito, yeah.
Magni Pro. Coleman Domingue Pro. So, anyway, Fantastic Four could be Mole Man, could be whatever. Either way, it shouldn't be anything major. It is just some news that came out. The last topic we have for you today is something that came out 15 minutes ago at time of recording. Marvel Rivals, new first-person shooter.
6v6 battler.
It's a battler.
Shooter. It's a shooter. It's a third-person shooter.
With a current roster of 33 Marvel characters. We're just going to kind of cover the weird ones, but for those of you, 6v6 strategy, similar if you've played Overwatch, know of Overwatch. If you don't know what this game is, it's similar to Overwatch, but mixed in.
The
with
difference
some cool,
is
Smite
the difference. The difference is because Smite's third person.
Yeah,
that's a good comparison. Whereas Overwatch is first person. So it's third person. There's no Overwatch changed dramatically in regards to the fact that the meta. You couldn't do anything different. You had to play meta, which was first it was 6v6, but then they were like, it's 5v5 now. 1 tank, 2 DPS, 2 healers every time, no matter what. You had to have a tank, you had to have 2 damage healers, you had to have 2 supports. Whereas in Marvel Rivals, I don't believe there is a cap on that. So if you want to get freaky and you want to run 5 tanks and a healer, do that.
Right, and then obviously Overwatch, like most games, did have changing. There was a Orisa Reinhardt double shield meta. There became a Zarya Orisa meta where there was a 2 tank meta. There was a 2 support meta. But like you said, anytime there was a specific meta, you had to follow it if you wanted to win.
Right.
Unfortunately, like a lot of massively online games, pro scene tends to ruin casual gameplay. The pros find a certain meta, they hammer it, and then when they go into their solo queue games, anything like that, they have to practice those, and people see what they're playing, and then they want to be ranked higher.
For an Overwatch, it was don't play Torbjorn because he's never going to be played in ranked. Whereas you could have one of the best Torbjorn players in the world, it didn't matter because that's not meta for what people are playing. So.
Or you look at games like, say, Teamfight Tactics. They find something that might be completely broken, and 6 people in one lobby try to force that comp.
Right.
You would think, we're going to all 5 of those are going to fail because they're all forcing it, and one person's going to do well. When a lot of times 3 or 4 of them succeed because it's that broken. They have to try to fix it. League of Legends. Luckily, they have some sort of ban system where you can
This
ban
Marvel
those.
Rivals also has a ban system.
Exactly. I
So
think having a ban system is extremely important because if there is one or two, especially in a small roster to start, if there is one or two characters that is completely meta breaking, you ban
right,
those. Don't worry about
until
it
they get balanced,
until
until
they
the
get
next patch
balanced.
comes through. Right.
So you have certain massive games that meta forcing becomes a huge problem, which is why if your goal is to play ranked in anything, especially like Marvel Rivals, if there's a rank system, eventually there are going to be problems that happen to every massive online game. Probably going to be certain characters being extremely broken. That's part
It's the
of the
nature of these
nature of the
games.
game.
It's and yeah, because
But if you
everyone
go
has
to
base
casual,
stats.
if you go to casual, people are still going to force it. You just gotta find a way to
You
play a
have to
game that you
adapt
have
too,
fun.
because like especially with a game with bans, you have to adapt. Like you can't just like, oh, okay, I say I'm an Iron Fist player, which I will be. Let's just say I'm an Iron Fist player, and then Iron Fist gets banned for some reason because he can charge up his punch and one shot somebody. Okay, like Doomfist for a little bit. Like Doomfist was bust. Doomfist went through waves where he was busted, and then Doomfist went through waves where he was horrible and
I
unplayable.
played him during both.
Yeah, and so yeah, so like, and so I can't just play Iron Fist because if Iron Fist gets banned because he's broken, I need to play something else. So
So
yeah, I think
okay.
I just think that I just think the fact that like let's say my second best character is a support player, like say it's or a strategist is what they call them. Let's say my second best player is a strategist. We could run 3 strategists, for instance. Like you can do that in Marvel Rivals and not get punished for it if you're. I mean, yeah.
Right.
So I
Or,
think that's the
you
difference.
might have a 3 strategist comp. 3 strategists is countered by, say, 4 tank. So then the
Right.
other team switches to 4 tank. And
Because then
now
you
the
don't have
new
enough
way to beat
damage to
4
get through the
tank
tank.
is
Right.
switching out 1 or 2 of the
Kill.
strategists for a
Yeah.
duelist.
Find some assassins that can get to the back and kill the supports that are healing the 4 tanks. Like
Right.
it's. But trapping people into one meta, I think, is where Overwatch failed, and then they got rid of their 6v6 mode, and so it's 5v5, and they tried to save it by releasing Overwatch Classic, which where you could play this old 6v6 mode with the old champions, like the before their buffs. So it's like Symmetra's teleporter and turret and stuff, and it's like, well, you should have done this however long ago because
Yeah, they
I
made
don't
a
know.
ton of mistakes with Overwatch and
Right.
Overwatch 2.
Right.
But yeah, we were talking about different strategies, different roles. The 3 strategy roles for this game are Vanguard, Tank, E. But again, these roles themselves are fluid. There will be duelists with Vanguard style moves and
Right. Sure.
abilities. There will be
But they're like how what
strategists
we
that
call
play as duelists.
bruisers. Yeah, duelers where they're going to be like tanky. They're going to be like kind of on like the bruiser side of things if you're familiar with RPGs. And then you're going to have duelists that are more like assassins where they're very squishy, but they can do a lot of damage really fast.
And you're going to
So
have vanguards that are going to lean kind of strategists, where like a paladin in World of Warcraft, where they are
sure.
tanky, but they have traits that can buff or heal. So yeah, they're strategist, duelist, vanguard. Duelist is supposed to be, DPS. Vanguard's supposed to be tank. Strategist is supposed to be support. But again, they're going to be a little bit fluid. There are so the roster. I'll just go through real quick. Alphabetical: Adam Warlock, Black Panther, Black Widow, Captain America, Cloak and Dagger, Doctor Strange, Groot, Hawkeye, Hela, Hulk, Iron Fist, Iron Man, Jeff the Land Shark, what the hell, Loki, Luna Snow, Magic, Magneto, Mantis, Moon Knight, Namor, Penny Parker, Psylocke, Rocket Raccoon, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Squirrel Girl, Star-Lord, Storm, Punisher, Thor, Venom, Winter Soldier, Wolverine. So they have a huge variety of, old characters, newer characters to bring in young
Sony
fans.
characters, Universal characters, Marvel characters,
Right.
Disney characters.
Characters that people have wanted in projects forever, characters that people already love. You have such a wide variety, which is very cool. Some of them have strange labelings for their roles. Others have some really cool things going on. One thing, like, just again, Adam Warlock is a strategist. When I think Adam Warlock, I think duelist.
Right.
Because if it's comic book Adam Warlock, he's insanely powerful.
Right.
And if it's movie version Warlock, he's a dumbass. So why would he be a strategist?
Yeah.
So I think that one's interesting. Black Panther's a duelist. Black Widow's a duelist. Makes sense. Black Widow looks a lot like Widowmaker.
Yeah.
Which
you got widows hitting you from behind or hitting you from deep.
Hitting Widow from behind. That would be anyway. Captain America, Vanguard makes sense. Cloak and Dagger, I've seen it. So this was they're a strategist. I saw some people going like they should be a duelist. No, Cloak and Dagger have to work together.
Dagger should be a duelist. Cloak should be a strategist. Yeah.
But because they're like a duo, it makes more sense that they're a strategist because you have to work together.
Cloak should be a duelist and Dagger should be a strategist. But they're interchangeable. Like I don't know what their kit looks like. So like, but yeah, they're cool. It's cool that they did that.
I see a lot of very the younger crowd is excited for Cloak and Dagger. So they're a perfect example of characters that were brought in to bring in different demographics.
It was a good show too. I think it had a season on Hulu or whatever. It was a good show.
A lot of people liked it, and it was a really big hit. Like it was also on the CW. I think a lot of younger crowd love them for their comic story. They're a really interesting they have interesting backstory for a character. So I see a lot of younger people being interested in them, saying they're already going to be Cloak and Dagger mains. It's very cool, but that's a perfect example of marketing and research working because of the amount of young people I've seen.
Right, and I think Marvel did really well because knowing that the CW was so DC dominant, to get a show to work with the CW and get one of their shows on there, because you probably got some of the crowd that have been watching The Flash or Arrow or
Smallville,
DC Legends of Tomorrow, Smallville, Black Lightning, like all those CW shows.
Yeah, very smart.
So,
but after Cloak and Dagger, Adam Warlock was weird, but this is so far the weirdest one when I think of what is the weirdest classification. Doctor Strange is a Vanguard.
Yeah, and I get it if you do like the shields and the barriers.
Yeah.
But I don't know how he plays. Like he's got to be a mid-range tank, which is really weird. So now you're
did they base roles based off of range a little bit? Like it's right. Obviously we'll have to look at the kit, but a Doctor Strange, you don't think tank.
I know he has a teleporter. Like he can put a sling ring, like a sling ring. He can put a sling ring probably within a certain range anywhere on the map, and your team can run through it and pop out at wherever you put that sling ring.
Which sounds like a strategy to me.
Right, yeah. It does.
So maybe there's some sort of thing with his cloak, because the cloak has the ability to like basically be impervious to damage in some versions.
Right.
So
and he can fly too. So like that being said, like you want your tank up in the air and not down defending. I don't know. I'm sure he's a very like niche thing, right? And so there's gonna be some Doctor Strange players that are just cracked. I'm sure.
You might have like a flying comp as well. It could be something like that. It could be
Star-Lord, Rocket.
Yeah,
all these kind of
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch
and Strange working together.
Yeah. Also, if Scarlet Witch plays like Moira, like I think she does, watch out. Watch out.
But after Doctor Strange, Groot is a Vanguard. Makes total sense.
You can even get that's one of those Guardian.
Groot and Rocket is a good idea.
Yeah, because they have a team up that looks sweet. So,
like most successful Marvel games that have those characters in it, they are better separate.
Yeah, I think Hulk can also do the fastball special with Wolverine. Cool. Which, if they bring in Colossus at some point, you can do the fastball special with him. I'm sure you can probably do it with Hulk, Thing, Colossus, all those kind of big body.
It'll be interesting to me which characters they choose to bring in first, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Sure.
Hawkeye, duelist, makes sense. Hela, duelist, makes sense. Hulk, Vanguard, makes sense. Yep. Iron Fist, duelist, makes sense. Iron Man, duelist, makes sense. Jeff
Lin Lee.
Who the fuck is he?
The Lin Lee's Iron Fist.
Yeah.
So, who is the Sword Master? So I don't know what his kit looks like either. So,
Jeff Landshark, neither of us know who he is, but he's a strategist. Loki, strategist, makes sense.
Right.
Luna Snow, not familiar, strategist.
Plays like Lucio. He's a
Magic
singer.
duelist makes sense. Magneto, Vanguard. Apparently it's old Magneto, so it makes sense.
Right.
Mantis, strategist makes sense. Moon Knight, duelist. Namor, duelist. Penny Parker, Vanguard, looks like diva. Rocket Raccoon, strategist. Think that's weird over duelist. If your reasoning is that because he's super smart and all that, then Iron Man should also be a strategist because Rocket has even more weapons than it's just weird. Scarlet Witch, duelist. Spider-Man, duelist. Squirrel Girl, amazing duelist. Star-Lord, duelist. I think I would put Star-Lord as a strategist just because he's a leader of a group. Storm, Punisher, both duelists. Thor and Venom, both vanguards. Winter Soldier and Wolverine, both duelists. The last bit of complaints I've seen is that Wolverine should be a vanguard. Disagree. What makes Wolverine tanky is his ability to run in head first and heal. It's not that he tries to defend anything. So I think he should not be a vanguard.
I think the only difference here, I'm sure some people are upset that Thor is a vanguard, but if you play Smite, Thor is a tanky. Like Thor's tanky in Smite as well. So
Thor in DC is a thick boy.
Yeah. So I'd have no problem with that either.
Yeah. I really don't have, the only ones I'm the most confused about are Star-Lord, Iron Man, Rocket. The really you can make arguments for me for those. The one that I don't really understand at all is Strange.
Yeah.
So we only have a few minutes here, I think, till we can wrap up. Let's talk about who we're most excited to play as. You already said it, Iron Fist.
Oh, the leaks. The couple people I've seen leaked already.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Ultron.
Yep, saw that
Ultron,
one.
Mr. Fantastic, and I just saw Human Torch right before this. So
I'm assuming those Mr. Fantastic and Human Torch will release around Fantastic Four, or before maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
And I think Ultron is great. I'm not going to be upset with any character they add because once Iceman gets into the game, I probably won't play anybody else. Nightcrawler, they probably have to figure out how to make that character balanced.
How to do a BAMF and make it not graphic enough.
That too, but like how do you balance a character like an Azazel or Nightcrawler? How do you make a character like Mystique even fun or Rogue even fun? How do you make Phoenix not?
Did I see Rogue? I saw Rogue too.
Okay. Yeah. So you got a lot of these characters, and obviously a roster of thousands to choose from.
Right.
If they're going to do characters like Jeff the Landshark and Penny Parker, don't be surprised if they include people like Kitty Pryde or other people that we don't care about.
Psylocke. Did you say Psylocke?
What was that? But like the Inhumans would be sweet. Any of the X-Men would be sweet. Everything. The Thing has
fill
to
out the rest of the groups. Yeah, fill out the rest of the groups too. Like you've got 3 Guardians or 4 Guardians.
Right. Gamora has to be there now.
Right. Drax the Destroyer.
I have a few characters that I am like in love with.
Right.
If I could, my entire office here would be covered in stuff.
Venoms and Lokis.
Venom, Loki, Iceman, Moon Knight.
Sure.
There's a few like when I looked through, I was like, do I want to play Venom first? Because Venom's was like the first character in Marvel that made me interested in comics.
Sure. Right.
So Venoms always have a special place in my heart. So it's like, do I want Venom? Squirrel Girl. I love
And she's a meme, but I'm sure she's got a crazy
Trub.
Yeah.
The girl who voiced her in the show.
Yeah.
And who
was going to voice her. Yeah, who's going to play her. Yeah.
So Squirrel Girl I want to play as. And then I would say Moon Knight and Loki are my other obsessed level.
Sure. If you had to pick one from each role, who would you pick?
Let's see. So Loki is a strategist, Moon Knight's a duelist, Squirrel Girl's a duelist, and Venom's a vanguard. So I have my strategist and vanguard already in Venom and Loki.
Sure.
So it's just who would I rather play as, Squirrel Girl or Moon Knight?
Right.
That's like asking me to pick which one of my kids is my favorite. That's just hard.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like either of them. Moon Knight or Squirrel Girl. At that point, it would probably be how they play. Based on the clips I've seen, I think I would enjoy Squirrel Girl more than Moon Knight. Based on who I like more, it'd be Moon Knight.
Sure.
But I would probably
Sure.
go with Squirrel Girl to start because I think her playstyle fits what I would do, as opposed to Moon Knight, which seems to have a lot of movement involved with making his kit better, and that's harder to learn usually. So,
Right.
how about yourself?
Damage dealer would be Iron Fist for
That's your
sure.
duelist,
I
yeah.
mean, that's a duelist right there. So for sure him. And then tank wise, the ones that kind of I don't want to play Magneto because he was like the most picked tank in the beta. And
I figured you'd play Cap.
Cap, I do like Cap. I think the ones like Groot and Thor are probably what interests me the most.
You gotta pick one.
I'd probably try Groot first.
Okay.
And then for strategist, I mean, Jeff the Land Shark just screams at me.
Really, not Luna Snow?
Luna Snow, if she plays like Lucio, I would play Luna Snow. But I'm curious to see what Adam Warlock plays like.
And you like Cloak and Daggers?
And I do like Loki Dagger. So I would probably say Adam Warlock.
My secondary strategist after Loki, I'm gonna try as Mantis.
Sure. Yeah, so I would go with Groot, Iron Fist, and Adam Warlock is what I would do.
Cool. For those of you that are still sticking around, who are you planning to play first in Marvel Rivals? By the time this episode came out, how much have you played already? Do you like it more than any other games such as, Valorant, Overwatch, or do you prefer Marvel Rivals? Do you prefer those? Are you excited for Coleman Domingo? What do you think the Cave in Fantastic Four is? What do you think? Let us know. We really appreciate you sticking around. We love you very much, and can't wait to talk to you next week. We're going to be going to Craven hopefully soon, and we'll obviously talk about Craven. And then after Craven, we think Sony's probably done.
Outside of Across the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse.
I believe I am going to start watching the
Creature Commandos.
And so
Sure.
if you watch those two, we'll talk about Creature Commandos. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you all so much for coming by. You all look great today.
GG.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Have no regrets, yeah, I'm tired of my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be